my name is Ricardo, and in this video we're going to talk about the board charter. Now, I think every organization in South Africa should have a board charter in place. However, I'm often asked the question, what is a board charter? So let's look at the reference to a board charter in South Africa specifically, and I'm going to talk about the King Code on Corporate Governance and also the Independent Code. Now, the concept of a board charter was initially referred to in King 2. That code was published in 2002, and in paragraph 2.1.17 of King 2, it says that every board should have a charter setting out its responsibilities, which should be disclosed in its annual report. So two aspects in that context. The one is that the board responsibilities are contained within the board charter, and also it should be disclosed in the annual report. Now, it further said that at a minimum, the charter should confirm the board's responsibility for the adoption of strategic plans, monitoring of operational performance and management, determination of policy and processes to ensure the integrity of the company's risk management and internal controls, communications policy, and director selection, orientation, and evaluation. So that already gives us an idea in terms of what should be in the board charter, but it refers to a previous, period under King 2, and admittedly at that stage, the King Code was more focused on for-profit or commercial entities. But the point is that it's not new, the concept of a board charter. Fast forward to King 3, which was published in 2009. Principle 2.1 provided that the board should act as a focal point for and custodian of corporate governance. One of the recommended practices was that the company should be headed by a board that directs, governs, and is in effective control of the company. Every board should have a board charter setting out its responsibilities, and it should meet as often as is required to fulfill its duties, preferably at least 4 times a year. So basically, King 3 agrees with my recommendations, where it says that every board should have a board charter setting out its responsibilities. It went into a bit more detail in terms of the risk governance, where it says that risk governance should be expressed in its board charter and supported by induction and training processes for all board members. Now, fast forward to King 4, got published in 2016. Under Principle 6, it provides that the governing body should serve as the focal point and custodian of corporate governance in the organization. It's recommended that the governing body should ensure that its role, responsibilities, membership requirements, and procedural conduct are documented in a charter, which it regularly reviews to guide its effective functioning. It also then talks about what should be disclosed in relation to the primary role and responsibilities of the governing body, and it's specifically whether the governing body is satisfied that it has fulfilled its responsibilities in accordance with the charter for the reporting period. So in terms of King 4, very importantly, the connection is again made in terms of the reporting, the disclosure to your stakeholders to basically disclose whether or not the board has undertaken what it has committed in terms of the board charter. And then also, very important addition to the board charter is that it should be reviewed on a regular basis. Now, at this time of recording this video, King 5 is in its draft format, but it basically repeats that same recommendation in relation to the board charter. So essentially, board charter, very important. Now, you may say that, well, the King codes are more focused on commercial enterprises. Let's move over then to the Independent Code, which is entitled the Independent Code of Governance for Non-Profit Organizations in South Africa. There's a specific section where it asks a question, what is a code of governance? And then further down, it provides that frequently the principles, values, and objectives of a code are embodied in a board charter to which each serving member is required to subscribe. So board charter, both part of the King Code on Corporate Governance as well as the Independent Code makes reference to that. So in my view, every organization should have a board charter. Plus, if you, as an organization, if your intention is to fundraise from the corporate sector, I would suggest that you familiarize yourself with the language, especially contained in the King reports, and also consider the applicability of some of those principles and recommended practices within the non-profit sector. Now, I'm fully persuaded that the board charter is applicable to non-profit organizations. It's not a commercial concept. It's important in terms of governance. Now, it's not a static document as recommended by the King Code on Corporate Governance. It should be reviewed on a regular basis. So if we look at the current context within which organizations, non-profits operate, there's definitely, firstly, ample reason for the organization to have a board charter in place. Secondly, even if you have a board chart in place, it should be reviewed. What has happened in recent years is that the legislation governing non-profit organizations, including the NPO Act, the Companies Act, and the Trust Property Control Act, those laws have been amended, and it introduced new eligibility requirements for board members or office bearers of non-profit organizations. So at least that aspect should be introduced, in my view, in the board charter. Now, I think that's important in order to know that whoever gets appointed, they comply with those requirements, and also that they're aware of those requirements, and that they sign the actual board charter to confirm that they are aware and that they are, eligible for appointment. So I think that that's quite significant. There are other important developments that are relevant, in my view, for the board charter, but we'll talk about it in other videos. Also, what I think is important is the disclosure requirements. So I think it's an ideal opportunity for organizations to focus more in terms of reporting on issues of governance, and the board charter is an excellent example where you can refer to that if it has been reviewed, if you introduced amendments to the board charter, as to what amendments have been introduced by the organization. So I hope this video has been helpful. If so, please share with other organizations if you agree that all organizations should have a board charter. Thank you very much.